headed for the Gator Bowl, ignite the big blaze of a final weekend. They'll play for the championship of the state of Florida, and you'll see it live from Gainesville, Florida, coming up. Some will tell you that scholarship athletes are on a full ride, but here at Florida State University, you'll meet a couple of guys who wanted to play football so badly, they're paying their own way. I'm Pat O'Brien. I'll have that story.
Who's the most powerful man on the football field? It's not the quarterback, nor is it anybody on defense. It's the man who wears this uniform. I'm Ira Parsegian, and I'll have that story.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this final Saturday of the NCAA Today. I'm Brent Musburger, joined once again by my colleagues, Coach Ira Parsegian and Pat O'Brien, who are back from their travels with some closing looks at the grand old game. And, of course, here in New York, it is Heisman Trophy time tonight. The candidates include quarterback Steve Young of Brigham Young and Doug Flutie of Boston College, but everyone already knows the winner will be Mike Rozier of Nebraska, and they got underway with a little early celebration out in Lincoln last night. It honored Nebraska athletic director and former head coach Bob Devaney and the man who succeeded him as coach, Tom Osborne. You know it was an official celebration because Bob Hope was there, thanking Mike Rozier for some Heisman quality memories.
And I want to ask you one thing. You're sure this is the corn belt? Rozier moves like it's the prune belt. Rozier, that's Heisman spelled backwards.
Rozier says he'll split the Heisman with his teammates, giving the heart to his offensive line. But is his heart set on getting the Heisman?
I'm not worrying about the trophy. If it comes, it comes. If it don't, it don't. I want to go home. That's all. That's the main thing. Go home.
One more, man, please.
And Pat, it's another running back about
the 11th in a row. I was looking at the stats between 62 and 71. 7 quarterbacks won the Heisman. He's the 11th in the row. They say the pass is back, but the Heismans are going to the back.
All right, Pat. Tonight, of course, they're going to make the announcement that Rozier has won the Heisman Trophy. Now, one thing we'll never know for sure is who had the best college football team this year. Now, most polls rated Nebraska and Texas in the top spots all season long, but they will not play. It raises once again a question whose time certainly has come. What about a postseason tournament to learn who is the best college team? You undoubtedly have heard arguments for and against. But what we've done here at the NCAA Today is conduct our own poll of every Division 1A head coach. And here is what we learned this week. Our first question, what about a postseason playoff? By a margin of 57% to 37, the men who would guide those teams favored the playoffs. Now here's a sampling of the pros and the cons.
This year, people would love to see a Nebraska-Texas playoff. It's not going to happen. And I think we should have some system where we could have this type game and basically have a true national champ.
What for? Why do we need it? Who cares?
You got to go out and win the championship on the field as we do in every other sport in the NCAA.
Which playoff format would be most feasible? 38% favored a 32-team playoff. 22% favored a 16-team playoff. And 35% would cut that to an 8-team playoff. Here's a look now at some of those views.
The top 8 teams would give you a pretty good cross-section of who should have the opportunity to compete for that championship.
You know, there's so many teams that, the top 20 is certainly capable of being the national champion.
If somebody's worried about how many games they play, they won't be in the Final Four anyway.
The NCAA Today asked the coaches what type of effect would an extended season have on the student athlete. By a substantial margin of 56%, the coaches said a postseason tournament would have a negative effect on the players.
I would think it's going to be detrimental to the student athlete for us, his academics.
You're talking about too much emphasis on a sport like football, and even though I love it, I think you'd have the wrong perspective.
And what about the pressures on the coaches themselves? Some felt that a postseason tournament would exert too much pressure, but the majority said no.
What difference does all that make? I mean, you know, we live under pressure every day anyway.
That's the life of a football coach, but what a nice pressure.
And our final question, would a postseason tournament diminish the importance of bowl games? The coaches left no doubt how they felt about that.
I don't think the bowls themselves themselves are going to be willing to move around and say, well, we will be part of a playoff. I think really that the bowl teams might get better bowl games through this process than they get through their selective process at this time.
The reality is this. If the NCAA loses its Supreme Court appeal next year over the current television contract with CBS and ABC, a playoff format becomes a strong possibility. It is already being discussed, I've been told, by the NCAA. And of course, Era, I know you prefer some sort of a playoff format. Which one would you like to see?
I think I'd like to see, Brent, the 16-team playoff, and then use all of the bowls. We've got probably around 16 different bowls. Use them for the playoff system. A lot of things could be adjusted, and I think it's the way to do it to go to a national champion.
Matt, how do you feel about the issue?
I agree with Bobby Collins. I think the fans get robbed out of really knowing who is number one. Wouldn't you like to see Nebraska and Texas this year play?
Exactly. You know, only a year ago, Louisiana State coach Jerry Stovall took his 8-3-1 Tigers to the Orange Bowl. Big things were expected for 1983. It did not happen. LSU fell to 4-7. And yesterday, athletic director Bob Broadhead told the university brass he thought a coaching change was in order.
During the last 4 years, LSU has played 45 football games. LSU has won 22 games during that period, or a winning percentage of 48%.
Stovall had his defenders among the athletic committee of LSU's Board of Supervisors, but there simply were not enough of them.
Recommendation was made by the athletic director and chancellor that I be terminated as head football coach, and that was approved by the committee and was going to full board. And that's what I know, so I'm assuming that I am no longer head football coach at LSU.
The man who will attempt to rebuild LSU's sagging fortunes is Bill Arnsparger, the former New York Giant head coach who is now the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, I'm just real pleased and happy to have the opportunity, and feel real honored to be selected. And I'm just looking forward now to doing my job here and then doing my job down there.
Arnsparger's biggest problem in going from the pros to college will be?
Well, I think recruiting, organizing a staff, and so forth, but I think I'm not so sure he's going to be pleased with what's happening because I've read where they're talking about he must have a winning season and a national championship immediately. That can't happen immediately, as I well know, and as you well know, and he's going to stay with the Dolphins during the course of the year. It's going to be tough to go out there and recruit and compete against the people he's going to compete against in the Southeastern Conference.
Exactly. A fellow by the name of Don Shula is going to say, we want to win the Super Bowl, too. And the NCAA Today will continue on CBS in just a moment.
The NCAA Today is sponsored by Volkswagen. Anco, makers of wiper blades, refills, winter blades, and other windshield products to see your way clear. And by Selsun Blue, the dandruff shampoo in dry, normal, and oily formulas.
Of All-Americans you'll see live in action are Greg Allen, the splendid running back of Florida State, and Wilbur Marshall, the great defensive lineman and sometimes a stand-up linebacker from Florida. But you know, some of the players who are involved, Pat, are certainly not All-Americans, but they contribute.
You're right, Brent. You know, there's a tendency here and elsewhere to always highlight the star players, the All-Americas. But with each team traveling with roughly 100 players these days, there are obviously others to talk about. That's why this week we visited Florida State University and got together with a couple of guys you may not have heard about before now, but who are as much a part of the team as the stars.
It is another practice day here, the week before the big game with arch rival Florida. But for Steve Bloodworth and Pat Milligan, every game, indeed every practice is big, because from one day to another, they are not assured a place on this team.
You got to play like man and then play like hard corner at the same time if he comes towards you?
You're right, man.
They are walk-ons. Neither was recruited, neither had a scholarship. To make this team took good old-fashioned hard work. Indeed, walk-ons just might be the embodiment of what college football is all about.
To me, they're the salt of the earth. The boys are on scholarship. They're out there bleeding and sweating and dying and suffering, but they're getting scholarship. Now here's 30 other guys that are doing this same thing that are not getting paid for it. I admire the heck out of those guys.
Those who have been through this ordeal sometimes say being a walk-on is like a second-class citizen. No scholarship, you got to pay your own way to eat and sleep. And oh yeah, sometimes a little ego-shattering. Some of them don't even make the school's media guide.
In fact, the only place Steve Bloodworth's name is mentioned is not the football guide, but the roster in the business school.
There were rumors flying all over the place.
At 5'8", 158 pounds, making the team was just short of a miracle.
I dream
to really succeed in life, you're going to have to dream. I mean, like, if what you really want, to be happy. Like when I was in high school, I dreamed about playing NCAA.
Just as Pat Milligan wisely has no illusions about playing his harmonica professionally, he also has no illusions about playing football professionally. He has started here at strong safety, has played admirably, but for him, college football has been more of a hard-fought dream than a career decision.
Like, I would probably class myself as a workaholic, probably more than a 9-to-5 type guy. You know, going out, just like in football, you always got to go out there hustling. You can't loaf, and, you know, or you're going to be sitting the bench. And it's probably going to be the same way out in the real world.
Both Milligan and Bloodworth are having a great time of all this. To them, football is an extracurricular activity. Just making the team was their goal. A goal achieved with a contentment perhaps the big-time scholarship players have never felt.
I used to talk with Pat, you know, hey, how is it? It's tough. It's real tough. You're going to have to want it. I was like, I want it. But I didn't realize how tough. Pat more or less, like, gave me the players and, you know, experience.
I think the greatest thing is I've shown a lot of people, like my high school coaches, for instance, you know, I've shown them that even though they didn't think that I could make it, you know, that I made it.
While his friends go on maybe to professional football, Pat Milligan is not going to play the harmonica. He's going to be an undercover policeman.
Thank you, Pat. And the NCAA Today will continue on CBS in just a moment.
I took Rolaids for 10 years. Now I get better relief from Tempo.
With Tempo, no more tongue.
It took remarkable Tempo to make these heartburn and gas sufferers switch.
Tempo's soft, not...
Florida and Florida State are about to move center stage, and these men will be right in the middle of all the action. And you know, it seems increasingly so that the center stage position puts officials under more and more fire. Certainly that was the case in two major games this season.
Let's go back to October 8th. Unbeaten Alabama trailed Penn State by 6 in the closing seconds. Walter Lewis found Preston Gothard for the Crimson Tide, but the officials ruled that Gothard was juggling the ball as he fell out of the end zone and so didn't score. Coach Ray Perkins was furious.
I think it's a crime just as much as murder when an official decides the outcome of a game.
But what about the felony Oklahoma coach Barry Switzer thought he'd uncovered last week? The Sooners' Danny Bradley looking for Derek Shepard. A Nebraska rushman tips the ball right there. But to Switzer and others, it looked as though a Cornhusker interfered with Shepard.
We got the slant route called to Shepard, and they splat him right in the mouth and the ball in the air.
Nebraska hung on to win it, 28-21, but Switzer sizzled.
Everybody saw it. Didn't y'all see it? The officials looking right at it, and they don't call it.
Actually, the officials made a good call. As soon as that defensive lineman tipped the ball, then it is legal to hit the receiver. So Barry happened to be wrong in that case. Sarah?
That's exactly right. It seems like you only notice the officials when they make a call you don't agree with. But most of the time, they go about their job so quietly and professionally, there's a tendency to take them for granted. This week, I spent some time with the officials who worked last Friday's Alabama-Boston College game, and I saw that they indeed were a team unto themselves. In last week's Alabama-Boston College game, 3 teams arrived at the stadium. The first 2 were easy to spot. But long before the Crimson Tide or the Eagles took the field, and long before the fans showed up, the 3rd team arrived. Who are they? The officials. Unlike the football teams, most officials don't work this season as a unit. So the first priority for referee Jimmy Harper is getting the signal straight.
The main thing I want to cover is false starts. I think that, as you all know, we know that if you have a false start and you let the play go, nothing good can happen. Officials look bad.
In his other life, Harper is an Atlanta stockbroker. But on game day, the striped uniform gives him the real power to take charge.
As it stands now, we're going to still give you a 5-minute warning before the kickoff.
But it's a 1:36 kickoff there, pretty close.
I guess they hadn't told us the exact time yet.
Jimmy, do you get nervous before or during the ball game?
I think everybody gets nervous before a game. You have a crowd and you're worked up, but once the ball's kicked off and you mark it in play that first time, all the nervousness over, you got a job to do, you get on with it.
First down. All right, let's go. It takes a sharp eye to allow legal movement on defense while catching illegal motion on offense. Watch again. When the offensive lineman jumps offside, it's too late. Defensive lineman, though, can get back, and the penalty nullifies a touchdown.
Got a false start on the offense. Dead ball foul. First down.
It's experience that tells the referee when to throw the flag and when not to.
That's right. Good lick. Third down.
Although the referee is in charge, he can't control a game by himself.
Teamwork is important so that we can let the kids play the ball game as the rules let them play it. We get it covered and we stay out of the way.
You can take the field and cut it into pieces as to which position each official works.
In addition to overall control of the game, the referee works the offensive backfield. The head linesman and the line judge monitor the line of scrimmage to ensure that neither team starts before the snap. As the play develops, the umpire keeps his eyes on interior linemen, ready to call any holding penalties. Further downfield, the receivers and defensive secondary are covered by the back judges and the field judge, who are on the lookout for pass interference. And while the officials manage to cover all the action, they themselves are judged by the coaches, TV replays, and most importantly by their supervisor, Gordon Pettis.
The severeness of the weather, a very tough football game, and the fact that they got the real tough calls correct would give them an 8 out of a 1 to 10 grade scale.
What does the third team have to show for its efforts? Nothing in the one-loss column, but plenty of internal satisfaction.
The best thing officials could feel after the game is that they've called the game fairly, and none of the decisions they've made, nothing that they've done has had anything to do with the outcome of the game. The media, well, that's the players and the coaches. They deserve the attention. I guess you'd say that when we leave the stadium, if nobody has recognized that the officials are there, we know we did a good job.
Harry, you say they are part-time. Would you like to see that change?
Well, I would. It's sort of a hobby with most of them, and they're moderately paid, and I'd like to see a full-time official because I think you'd have more professionalism.
Are most of them ex-players?
In the Southeastern Conference, as a matter of fact, the prerequisite is to be a former player before you can officiate there. And then, of course, they have to scratch themselves for any coach they played for, or any school that they have attended, and any family members that happen to be a part of that school. They have some restrictions also.
Tough job. The NCAA Today continues on CBS in just a moment.
You're looking at a nasal spray with the world's most advanced delivery system.
Come to the end of this college football season. Pat, it sure passes quickly.
Isn't it, though? I was thinking about this season, and I think my favorite moment was this past week with those two walk-ons. They enjoyed the attention. They never get much media coverage, and they really enjoy the game, and I think that's what college football is all about.
Yeah, it was another great year.
It really was, and I suppose my most memorable moment happened early in the year when I had the opportunity to go out to Nebraska and do the I-formation and see probably the most awesome offensive football team in the history of college football. We had two undefeated teams, Texas with a great defense and Nebraska with a great offense, and I had the privilege of watching them work out.
There are so many people that we don't get an opportunity to thank, especially the seniors who are graduating, those of whom will not become professional football players. We'd also like to salute our colleagues here on the NCAA Today. They have been a good cheer and good counsel as we've traveled the road together. And finally, our thanks to you for your share in CBS Sports' second season with the NCAA Today.
You are my best idea. The moment I became inspired, and we created something special here. A love to take us through the years. Baby, we can make miracles together. freedom. An everlasting sun that shines. We are reborn again. Look what we've begun. Two worlds have now become as one. Baby, we can make miracles together. We're supernatural tonight. I'll real my fantasy. The first time I saw you, I knew I found a miracle in you. We can make miracles together. We're supernatural tonight. The first time I saw you, I knew I found a miracle in you. I found a miracle in you. I found a miracle.
Florida State versus Florida. Two teams headed for postseason bowl games. Pausing today to settle a neighborhood dispute. They live in the same recruiting territory. It's Tallahassee versus Gainesville, a relatively young rivalry that has come of age. Florida wanted to win the Southeastern Conference Championship. They didn't make it, but they missed a perfect season up to now by only 8 points. Florida State hoped for national honors. They have missed a perfect season by only 10 points. So today the rewards are simple and apparent. Florida State versus Florida for prestige, recruiting advantage, pride, and bragging rights. Exciting college football on CBS Sports. Florida Field on the campus of the University of Florida in Gainesville. Florida State Seminoles and the Florida Gators. We expect a lot of noise, a lot of color, and a lot of excitement here today. Some 73,000 fans on hand for the renewal of this series, led by Florida 18-6-1. Florida has won the last 2 games, but the 4 before that were won by Florida State. The coaches, Charlie Pell of Florida, Bobby Bowden of Florida State, they're all even against each other at 2-2. Florida State has a reputation of being able to win on the road, but they've lost 3 so far this year. And here come the Florida State Seminoles. And here come the Gators of the University of Florida. Everybody, I'm Lynn T. Nelson with Pat Hayden. We expected a lot of noise and a lot of excitement, and we're getting it. Pat Hayden, first of all, let's talk about the football game. It's a little unusual situation with the quarterback at Florida State.
Well, Bobby Bowden loves to throw the football, and he has said today that they have to throw the football today to win. His quarterback is Bob Davis, number 10. He's a junior. He didn't get a chance to play much this entire year until the 8th game of the season where he replaced the starter, Kelly Lowry. But he's played very well for the Seminoles and completed 59% of his passes. But Kelly Lowry, number 12, is available today. His knee injury is recuperated. He's a big, tough, physical type of guy. Bobby Bowden says he will use them if they need some spark.
Well, for this particular game, it's also an unusual situation with a running back.
Well, Howard Stellenberger, the head football coach at Miami, says that Roosevelt Snipes and Greg Allen are the best tailback tandem in the country. But you're going to see a little different lineup today. Greg Allen and Roosevelt Snipes are going to play in the same backfield. Greg Allen, the All-American, is going to open up at fullback. Snipes, the tailback, he's going to open up there, and they want to get him the ball in the open field as much as they possibly can.
The University of Florida has a balanced, solid attack, and it's led by a veteran.
Wayne Peach, the quarterback. It's a balanced offense, a well-controlled passing game. Wayne Peach has completed 63% of his passes this year. Likes to get you in those 3rd and 3 situations, dump the ball off their back, and pick up a first down.
You can't talk about Florida without talking about Wilbur Marshall in defense.
Well, he is the All-American, and Bobby Bowden says you better know where he is because he is Florida's pass rush. Can chase you down from behind and make a lot of big plays.
If the game comes down to 1 point to decide it, it might be the punting of Florida.
Well, field position is going to be critical, and Florida really has the key here. They have 2 punters. Number 13, Ray Criswell's averaged over 47 yards a punt, had 12 punts over 50 yards. And David Nardoni, number 6, he's their short punter. He kicks it out of bounds inside the 10-yard line and makes the opposing team go a long way.
That just about sets it up. Florida State versus Florida. Final regular season game of the season before a sellout crowd in Gainesville, Florida.
My dandruff shampoo is good.
Ready for the kickoff by Florida State. Here's Barco with the kick. Hampton is chasing it over, and it's going to go out of bounds and across the end line. Henderson did not offer in the corner. It'll be a touchback, 1st and 10 at the 20-yard line. The officials, a split crew here today, the SEC and the Southern Independents, with Jimmy Harper as the referee. A split crew of officials. 73 degrees, humidity 65%, northeast 15 miles per hour. The wind could be something of a factor. Forecast cloudy. The sun is trying to break through the overcast, and in the Sunshine State, I'm sure it will. Peace brings him up now, number 15, Wayne Peace. That's Hampton moving over to a slot left. Williams is the fullback to the slot. Hampton. Lorenzo Hampton. Up there to the 29-yard line. Picked up 9. Steve Bloodworth, the walk-on on the right corner. Made the tackle. Let's set the backs and receivers for Florida now.
At quarterback, number 15, Wayne Peace. He's passed for over 7,000 yards in his career.
John L. Williams, the fullback, has averaged 6.3 per carry.
Dwayne Dixon, their leading receiver, with 40 catches this year.
2nd down and a yard to go. Wayne Peace, the quarterback, running back to the 9 formation for Florida. That is Hampton. He's got the 1st and 10 for the Florida Gators out at the 36-yard line. So the Gators draw the first down of the day. Tackle was made by Ponder. Let's look at the offensive line for the Gators now.
The man to watch is the center, number 50, Phil Bromley. He's been an all-Southeast Conference selection.
1st down, 10 yards to go at the 36-yard line. It's Hampton and the tailback. Williams is the fullback. Here's the pitch, Hampton. Hampton slashes down to the 35 to 40-yard line. Pat Milligan from Fort Lauderdale in to make the tackle, a gain of 4. That sets the defense now for Florida State.
Up front, number 76, Alfonso Carricker. Bobby Bowden said he's the best defensive tackle to play at FSU.
And the linebackers, Ken Rowe weighs only 205 pounds, but he can hit and he can pursue.
In the defensive backfield, Eric Riley has 4 of his team's 10 interceptions.
2nd down, 6 yards to go. Florida in possession, the game having just begun. Peace on the draw play this time. Taken by Williams, John L. Williams, the sophomore from Palatka. Stopped by John McLean from Claremont, Florida. Bobby Bowden, the head coach of the Seminoles. At one stretch, starting in 1977, he racked up 4 consecutive victories over Florida in this series.
Lindsey, Florida likes to pick at you early in the football game. It's a controlled game. They mix the run and the pass, but they like to throw the short pass. The first play we saw before, a short pass to Hampton. They've run Hampton a couple times off tackle, but they like to keep you off balance, but with a controlled offensive scheme.
Little B. Lang, 5'8", is far to the right side. It is going to the left side, and it's completed to Dixon. Dixon's across the 50-yard line. He's the favorite.